Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are going to be continuing to read The Sleeper Awakes by H.G. Wells. So, let's get going. And when these had vanished in the distance, Graham heard a peewit wailing close at hand. He perceived he was now above the South Downs, and staring over his shoulder saw the battlements of Portsmouth Landing stage, towering over the ridge of Portsdown Hill. In another moment there came into sight a spread of shipping like floating cities, the little white cliffs of the Needles dwarfed and sunlit, and the grey and glittering waters of the narrow sea. They seemed to leap the Solent in a moment, and in a few seconds the Isle of Wight was running past, and then beneath him spread a wider and wider extent of sea, here purple with the shadow of a cloud, here grey, here a burnished mirror, and here a spread of cloudy greenish blue. The Isle of Wight grew smaller and smaller. In a few more minutes a strip of grey haze detached itself from other strips that were clouds, descended out of the sky, and became a coastline, sunlit and pleasant. The coast of northern France. It rose, it took colour, became definite and detailed, and the counterpart of the downland of England was speeding by below. In a little time, as it seemed, Paris came above the horizon, and hung there for a space, and sank out of sight again as the monoplane circled about to the north. But he perceived the Eiffel Tower still, standing, and beside it a huge dome surmounted by a pinpoint colossus, and he perceived too, though he did not understand it at the time, a slanting drift of smoke. The aeronaut said something about trouble in the underways that Graham did not heed, but he marked the minarets and towers and slender masses that streamed skyward above the city wind vanes, and knew that in the matter of grace at least Paris still kept in front of her larger rival. And even as he looked, a pale blue shape ascended very swiftly from the city, like a dead leaf driving up before a gale. It curved round and soared towards them, growing rapidly larger and larger. The aeronaut was saying something. "What?" said Graham, loath to take his eyes from this. "London aeroplane, sire," bawled the aeronaut, pointing. They rose and curved about northward as it drew nearer. Nearer it came and nearer, larger and larger. The throb, throb, throb beat of the monoplane's flight, that had seemed so potent and so swift, suddenly appeared slow by comparison with this tremendous rush. How great the monster seemed, how swift and steady! It passed quite closely beneath them, driving along silently. A vast spread of wire-netted, translucent wings, a thing alive. Graham had a momentary glimpse of the rows and rows of wrapped-up passengers slung in their little cradles behind windscreens, of a white-clothed engineer crawling against the gale along the ladderway, of spouting engines beating together, of the whirling wind screw, and of a wide waste of wing. He exulted. Excuse me, a little bit of hiccups there. He exulted in the sight, and in an instant the thing had passed. It rose slightly, and on their own little wings swayed in the rush of its flight. It fell and grew smaller. Scarcely had they moved, as it seemed, before it was again only a flat blue thing that dwindled in the sky. This was the aeroplane that went to and fro between London and Paris. In fair weather and in peaceful times it came and went 4 times a day. They beat across the Channel, slowly as it seemed now to Graham's enlarged ideas, and Beachy Head rose greyly to the left of them. "Land," called the aeronaut, his voice small against the whistling of the air over the windscreen. "Not yet," bawled Graham, laughing. "Not land yet. I want to learn more of this machine." "I meant," said the aeronaut, "I want to learn more of this machine," repeated Graham. "I'm coming to you," he said, and had flung himself free of his chair and taken a step along the guarded rail between them. He stopped for a moment, and his colour changed, and his hands tightened. Another step, and he was clinging close to the aeronaut. He felt a weight on his shoulder, the pressure of the air. His hat was a whirling speck behind. The wind came in gusts over his windscreen and blew his hair in streamers past his cheek. The aeronaut made some hasty adjustments for the shifting of the centres of gravity and pressure. "I want to have these things explained," said Graham. "What do you do when you move that engine forward?" The aeronaut hesitated. Then he answered, "They are complex, sire." Excuse me. "I don't mind," shouted Graham. "I don't mind." There was a moment's pause. "Aeronautics is the secret, the privilege. I know, but I'm the master, and I mean to know." He laughed, full of this novel realization of power that was his gift from the upper air. The monoplane curved about, and the keen, fresh wind cut across Graham's face, and his garment lugged at his body, as the stem pointed round to the west. The two men looked into each other's eyes. "Sire, there are rules." "Not where I am concerned," said Graham. "You seem to forget." The aeronaut scrutinized his face. "No," he said, "I do not forget, sire. But in all the earth, no man who is not a sworn aeronaut has ever a chance. They come as passengers." "I have heard something of the sort, but I'm not going to argue these points. Do you know why I have slept 200 years? To fly." "Sire," said the aeronaut, "the rules. If I break the rules—" Graham waved the penalties aside. "Then if you will watch me—" "No," said Graham, swaying and gripping tight as the machine lifted its nose again for an ascent. "That's not my game. I want to do it myself. Do it myself if I smash for it. No, I will. See, I am going to clamber by this, to come and share your seat. Steady. I mean to fly of my own accord, if I smash at the end of it. I will have something to pay for my sleep. Of all other things, in my past it was my dream to fly. Now, keep your balance." "A dozen spies are watching me, sire." Graham's temper was at an end. Perhaps he chose it should be. He swore, he swung himself round the intervening mass of levers, and the monoplane swayed. "Am I master of the earth?" he said, "or is your society? Now, take your hands off those levers and hold my wrists. Yes, so. And now, how do we turn her nose down to the glide?" "Sire," said the aeronaut, "what is it?" "You will protect me?" "Lord, yes, if I have to burn London. Now." And with that promise, Graham bought his first lesson in aerial navigation. "It's clearly to your advantage, this journey," he said with a loud laugh, for the air was like strong wine, "to teach me quickly and well. Do I pull this? Ah, so. Hello. Back, sire, back. Back, right. 1, 2, 3. Good God. Ah, up she goes. But this is living." And now the machine began to dance the strangest figures in the air. Now it would sweep round a spiral of scarcely 100 yards diameter, now rush up into the air and swoop down again, steeply, swiftly, falling like a hawk, to recover in a rushing loop that swept it high again. In one of these descents it seemed driving straight at the drifting park of balloons in the southeast, and only curved about and cleared them by a sudden recovery of dexterity. The extraordinary swiftness and smoothness of the motion, the extraordinary effect of the rarefied air upon his constitution, threw Graham into a careless fury. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. Excuse all the clearing of the throats and gargle sounds of that. I've just eaten my tea, so it's probably still a little bit in my throat, and rice always does that to me. So, anyway, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you all have... What is it? I've forgotten it now. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or night, no matter what time of day it is. I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.